You know what messes with people? Not being broke. Looking around and feeling broke. You see someone upgrade their phone, book a trip, post dinner from some place where the water cost $11, and your brain starts doing fake math. Everybody's ahead, everybody's comfortable, everybody figured money out except me. Meanwhile, you're looking at your own account, thinking, why does doing the responsible thing still feel so unimpressive? That is the trap. People confuse visible spending with financial progress. Those are not the same thing. A person can look expensive and still be one credit card bill away from a terrible month. Another person can look completely ordinary and be getting stronger every single payday. So let's fix the scoreboard. Not who looks rich, who is actually getting better with money. By the end of this, I want to show you 7 signs that look boring on the surface, but are very powerful underneath. If 4 or 5 of these sound like you, you're probably doing much better than you think. And the last sign is the one most people miss because it doesn't look dramatic. It just makes you harder to break.
Before we get into the list, here's the reset that matters. Money progress rarely looks impressive in real time. Usually, it looks like checking the number, catching a mistake early, skipping something dumb, or recovering faster when life gets expensive. That is progress. So let's start with sign number 1.
There was a phase in a lot of people's lives where checking the bank balance felt like opening exam results. You delay it, you avoid it, you tell yourself you'll check tomorrow, and somehow tomorrow becomes after the weekend. That is not money management. That is money avoidance. And avoidance gets expensive fast. When you do not look at the numbers, small problems turn into fees, interest, overdrafts, missed due dates, and those ugly little penalties that exist purely to punish inattention. A bill you could have handled on Tuesday becomes a scramble on Friday. A balance you could have adjusted early becomes a credit card problem by the end of the month. So if you can open the app, look at the number, and calmly think, okay, here's where I am. That matters. Even if the number is not amazing. Because now you can make decisions in real life instead of reacting to vague dread. You can move money before autopay hits. You can spot a charge that does not belong there. You can notice that your checking account is getting thin and slow down before you create a chain reaction. Calm is not the finish line. Calm is what lets you steer. The person who can face the number can improve the number. The person who keeps avoiding it usually ends up paying extra for the privilege.
This one saves people a shocking amount of money. At some point, you stop trying to keep up with a friend, coworker, cousin, or internet stranger whose life looks smooth, polished, and suspiciously expensive. You know the pattern. Brunch, trip, concert, new shoes, upgraded phone, ride shares everywhere, and 100 little moments dressed up as it's only $40 or it's just $60. Right, and 5 versions of just later, you've burned a few $100s and bought yourself stress on Monday. So if you can now watch somebody else spend and think, good for them, not for me, that is a real financial upgrade. Because mature money behavior is not only about earning more, it is about no longer letting somebody else's preferences become your monthly expenses. And the funny part is, you usually have no idea whether the person you're copying can actually afford the life you're admiring. You are comparing your real bank account to someone else's edited highlights. That game is unwinnable. The day you stop performing wealth and start protecting margin, your money gets better very quickly.
This is one of the clearest signs. Something random shows up. A tire issue, a $120 prescription, a repair, a school fee you forgot was coming, a yearly subscription that reappears like it pays rent in your account. You are not happy about it, but does it wreck the month? That is the question. Earlier, one surprise expense could trigger the whole domino setup. You cover it with a credit card, then the card balance hangs around, then interest shows up, then next month starts weaker before it even begins. That is what financial fragility looks like. Not just low money, but no shock absorber. So, if a hit like that is now irritating instead of destabilizing, you are improving in a very real way. Maybe you have a few hundred in savings. Maybe you keep a little extra in checking. Maybe your budget has enough slack that one bad Tuesday does not become debt by Thursday. That may not sound glamorous, but it's how real stability starts. A $300 cushion will not impress Instagram. It will, however, keep you from paying 24% interest because your car decided to be dramatic. And that's a huge difference. Financial progress is not only about having more, it's about needing less rescue every time life gets expensive.
This is where fantasy starts dying and real progress begins. You know your rough numbers. Not perfectly, not accountant level, not 12-tab spreadsheet energy, but you know enough to tell the story of your month. You know what comes in after taxes. You know the bills that are fixed. You know what your normal groceries look like. You know whether eating out, online shopping, convenience spending, or subscriptions are the categories that quietly inflate. That distinction matters because awareness is different from discipline. This sign is not about saying no yet. It is about no longer being confused. A lot of people know their paycheck and almost nothing after that. Ask what their month actually costs, and the answer turns into vibes, guesses, and mild denial. But money is very loyal. It goes exactly where you send it. So if you can say, I spend about $250 more on takeout than I thought, or these auto renewals are costing me $70 a month, or weekends are where the budget really bends, that is useful. Now you can plan for real numbers instead of imaginary ones. You can build a grocery target that matches your actual life. You can cap the category that keeps overflowing. You can stop treating subscriptions like background scenery and start treating them like expenses competing for your cash. Clear numbers are not always comforting, but they are powerful. Once you know where the money goes, you stop asking where it went. This is where restraint becomes real. Saying no when you are completely broke is not always a choice. Sometimes your account made the decision for you. Saying no when the money is sitting there is different. Maybe it was a phone upgrade you did not need. Maybe it was a weekend plan that would have quietly become a $250 night by the time dinner, drinks, parking, and while we're here finished their work. Maybe it was a cart full of things that were not necessities, just temporary emotional support with shipping. And you paused. Not because you were scared to spend, but because you know one important thing. I can buy this and I should buy this are completely different sentences. That is a major upgrade. Because this sign is not about knowing you're spending. That was sign 4. This sign is about having enough control to interrupt yourself in the moment. A lot of people earn more and still stay stuck because every raise immediately gets translated into better seats, better gadgets, better dinners, better everything. Then the higher income gets absorbed and somehow they still feel tight. If you have started protecting your cash from your own impulses, even sometimes, that's a skill with real long-term value. Income helps, but the ability to leave money unspent when you don't need the thing, that builds options.
This one is different from restraint. Sign 5 is about saying no to a purchase. Sign 6 is about actively making your future month easier. You top up savings before it gets too low. You pay the card early so the balance does not pile up. You move money for rent the same week you get paid. You cancel something you are not using before it drains another 3 months. You notice a heavy spending week and tighten the next one on purpose. Those are small moves, but they change the mechanics of your finances. Why? Because they reduce the chance that timing turns into trouble. A lot of money stress is not just about total spending. It's about sequence. The bill hits before the paycheck. The card balance grows before you look at it. The month gets away from you in week 2, and now week 4 is a negotiation. Proactive money habits break that pattern. You are no longer only reacting to pain, you're managing cash flow, timing, and momentum before the problem gets expensive.
That matters a lot more than people think. Sometimes the difference between "I'm fine" and "this month is a mess" is one early transfer, one extra payment, one canceled charge, one decision made 3 days sooner. People who improve with money start doing that more often, not because they became perfect, because they stopped waiting for the crisis to make the decision for them.
This is the strongest sign on the list. You still mess up. Everybody does. You overspend one weekend, you forget a renewal, you book the convenience option, you make a purchase and later think, that was not my finest work. But now the mistake is smaller. And even more important, it ends faster. You catch it in a couple of days instead of a couple of months. You adjust next week instead of pretending nothing happened. You do not let one bad choice turn into a bad season. That is real progress. Because being bad with money is not making one mistake. Being bad with money is turning one mistake into a pattern, then a habit, then a monthly personality trait. A financially improving person says, I overspent by $120 this week, so next week I'm pulling back. A financially reckless person says, well, the month is already ruined. That sentence has probably done more damage than the original purchase ever did. So if your mistakes are getting smaller, if you spot them faster, and if your recovery is more practical and less dramatic, you are not treading water. You are building resilience. And in personal finance, resilience matters more than looking flawless. Because the people who get stronger are not the ones who never slip. They are the ones who don't stay down long, don't compound the mistake, and don't need a miracle to get back on track.
So let's put the 7 signs together. You can look at your numbers without spiraling. You stopped copying lifestyles that were never yours to fund. A surprise expense is annoying, not catastrophic. You know where your money goes. You can say no even when yes is possible. You make small corrections before problems get expensive. And when you mess up, the mistake is smaller and the recovery is faster. That is not fake progress. That is the real kind. It may not look flashy from the outside. Nobody throws a parade because you paid the card early, skipped the upgrade, or caught a budget leak before it got stupid. But those are the moves that change your life. So if you've been feeling behind, here is the truth. Maybe you're not behind. Maybe you are in the part that actually counts. The goal is not to look rich by Friday. The goal is to become harder to break by the end of the year, harder to knock off course, harder to trap with fees and interest, harder to panic, harder to set back with one mistake, one bill, or one chaotic month. That is what better with money really means. And if that's starting to sound like you, then you are doing better than you think.